Hello, everybody. I'm Eugene Brown, and welcome to Get Rid of Your Old BS. And by old BS, I mean your old limiting belief systems. So, welcome to another show. Today, I am with my good friend Matt Kern. Matt Kern is the CEO and founder of Convene Communities. It's a platform that focuses on connecting, communicating, and collaborating, all with the hopes of helping people do better in their lives and in their businesses. So, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a key member of this particular company, and it's great to have Matt on as my special guest. Matt, how are you doing today?
Always doing well, Eugene. Always good to be with you.
Good to hear. Matt and I, we talk about being like twins, although we don't look like twins. We're a bit like
Close, we're close. What happens to you happens to me.
It feels that way sometimes. Recently, we were at a conference in Winston-Salem for our Convene 23 kickoff, and I ended up getting COVID. In fact, I'm just now coming out of the tail end of it. And who has COVID?
That would be me.
That,
Exactly. Yin
yeah,
and yang. That's who we
yeah,
are.
yin and yang, ebony and ivory. So, Matt, like anything else, we experience hardships in life, and you and I both have COVID, and it's just like anything else. It's something that we simply get through. But on this show, we want to talk about how people can overcome the things that ail them, those defining moments in their lives, those things that they hang on to, whether it's a divorce or a death in the family, or maybe it's something positive. They got a promotion at work, and they latch on to that. So today I want to talk a little bit about the earthquakes in Turkey, and then transition to maybe something personal you can share with the audience, maybe something both good, maybe, and something bad that you have dealt with. So with that in mind, let's start with Turkey. As many of you know, there have been multiple earthquakes in the Turkey and the Syria area, and there have been nearly, I believe, 48,000 people that have lost their lives. I often think of, and Matt, you've been to Turkey, I often think of small shops and people going about their day and the hustle and the bustle, and there's probably folks from a number of different countries that kind of come through that region. And then out of the blue, an earthquake happens and it disrupts people's lives. Tell us a little bit about what you know about Turkey.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back a little ways in time, and I was over there when the last earthquakes hit a long time ago in 1999, and 2001 is actually when it hit, and a lot of people lost their lives during this particular time. I was over there with the Marine Corps, and we were doing humanitarian assistance for it. It was one of the craziest things that I ever saw, because for this particular region in Turkey, everything was fine one day, and the next day it was pure chaos. I'll never forget going into the area where we were working. It was in the bay, and literally, Eugene, one side of the bay was lower than the other, just like what you would think would happen on TV when the earth just splits. Well, that's what happened. The earth split. One side was lower, how the plates moved, and the other was up a number of feet, and water had gone in. That it was crazy. It was the craziest thing. One particular story I remember big time. It was a humanitarian assistance camp that we were taking food in and out of, and this lady, Allie, she was captain at the time, Allie Thomas. She had gone in, and she was there, and we would talk to her as we would flying in the helicopters, and she had all these kids around her. And when I say a lot of kids, I'm talking 20, 30 kids around her. She's talking to us on the radio, and we're like, look at you, Allie, you got a lot of kids. And you know what she said, Eugene?
Mm-hmm.
She said, every one of these kids lost their parents, every one of them. And so they would follow her around like she's their mother. And here's this young captain, you were in the military, you weren't that old when you were a captain. These kids would just follow her around. So it's very sad because life changed on a dime for these individuals there. And back up, it was 1999 when that happened, and it was just life changed on a dime. It was sad, but they did. This one is actually worse. They've lost more people in this earthquake than they did in that particular one overall.
Yeah, yeah, that is quite a challenge. As we talk about going through life and defining moments, I would imagine some of these children saw their parents dead,
Yeah.
or maybe some of their parents were crying for help, or, it's just a very traumatic experience. And then how does, a young person, a child, get
Yeah.
through that, and obviously you're a counselor. They probably go through a lot of counseling. What would you talk about there?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's it's a lot of trauma, and you want to help the individual, child, adult, whoever it might be, just move past it. And and not forget, always remember, but know that their family member has moved on to somewhere, hopefully better. And you gotta reframe the life, and move forward. We were talking about that the other day. Denzel Washington did that college speech when he's talking about falling forward. If we live in our past, it becomes extremely hard because we all have things, ups and downs and things that we go through. And in this case, you can't ever, take that back when you lose your parents or lose your loved ones in an earthquake. So you got to just help them stay positive. You got to help them move forward. You got to help them know that you'll be back with them another day, and just kind of reframe life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're gonna have to provide a lot of support. Hopefully they have, family members that found them. Hopefully the government will step in and corral these kids, and then try to figure out who each of them is and who they potentially belong to, and then get them that humanitarian help that they need, and the counseling that they need, and support and the love that they need. So I can't imagine losing my parents as a child. But because I think you have a long time to heal, and your mind is younger, I think you could reshape it.
Yeah.
You deal with it better because your mind is more open to the reshaping, if you will.
Yeah, and if you think about the reverse, I'm sure that a lot of parents lost their kids in that. It was like, I will tell you, it was phenomenal because the infrastructure and the way things are built over there at the time, maybe not, I don't know if it's as good now or different, but you're talking about apartment buildings just pancaked, just coming right down on it, kind of like 9/11 or whatever. It was phenomenal. But you think of your parent, you lose your child and that sort of thing, you have to reframe, you have to move on. You and I talk about this a lot, when bad things happen, it's part of life. It's part of what goes on. And you just got to kind of find your way to move on. Remember, but move forward. That there's two things, we're going to be born and we're going to die. And what we do in between is up to us. And that's just a fact. And, it's coping mechanisms, coping skills to help people get through the hard times.
Yeah. And the question is why do some people cope well and others don't cope as well? And I think there are those skills that help people get through things. And quite honestly, I think some people either forgot them or never learned them. And the pain is so great that they decide, because it's a decision, to wallow in the pain. And what are your thoughts there as to why some people do better with managing versus others?
Yeah, I find it interesting. You and I've talked a lot about this. Are you a glass half full person, or you're a glass empty or half empty or empty? And there's a lot of people that are glasses are empty out there, meaning that they always look at the negative, and then they get into the woe is me, and they don't move forward. And so I choose, and you choose, I know, that, life's tough, but life is tough. Let's be honest. You have family issues, you have money issues, you have relationship issues, you have, parenting issues. You're always navigating life each and every day. But even if you have a bad day, tomorrow's always better. And
Yeah.
I think some people forget about that. Some people just get into that negative rut, that negative mindset, and they just let life beat them down instead of saying, okay, you know what, I had a bad day today, or something bad happened in my life today, or not positive, and they live there and they don't think, okay, well, what can I do to change my circumstances tomorrow
Right.
so it's a better day?
Mhm.
And I think that's the mindset. I think some people have just been brought up, maybe not taught, to think positive. Um, but it truly is. I think you have control of your life.
You do.
Again, it's not going to always be easy. You're going to have bad days, but what can you do to turn it around tomorrow and make it a better day? And I think
Yeah.
that's what we need to start thinking about.
Yeah. I often quote a book from The Road Less Traveled, where Scott Peck talks about in the forward or the opener that life is difficult and life is a series of problems. And the fact that people think that life may not be difficult, that again, that's part of the problem. But he talks about once you understand that life is difficult, and once you accept that life is difficult, you transcend this difficulty, this sort of problem. And he says that the fact that life difficult no longer matters to you because you've internalized, you get that life is difficult.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is with a number of people, or a lot of our society, is they somehow think that life is not supposed to be difficult,
Yeah.
and that the world or the universe has heaped this set of problems on them
Yeah.
specifically, and then they get into that woe is me sort of
Right.
syndrome.
Absolutely. You control your circumstances, Eugene.
Mhm.
Let's be honest. If I want to go out and I want to make more money, then go out and work hard and make more money. If I want to create opportunity myself, then go out and create opportunity for myself. If I want to be in a relationship, then be in that relationship. Make that relationship what you want it to be. If it's not a good relationship, then you have the choice to choose to not be in that relationship. So we have choices. We have the ability to frame our life, to make our life what we want it to be. And I think some people just think it's handed to them. Okay, this is the life that was handed to me. There's no way out. I'm stuck, you know? And I think that that's just a bad mindset that people get in. There's a positive mindset, there's a negative mindset, and people just get stuck in this negative mindset. Like, okay, this is what life's dealt me. This is what it's handed to me. No, change your circumstances.
Right, right.
It might not be easy to change your circumstance, but you
Right.
can.
Yeah, you certainly can. So in that light, or in that vein, that you here's what life has handed to you. I know a number of people will say the saying, if life gives you lemons, then you make lemonade,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
very true. You have to figure out ways to get through something that is negative and find the silver lining, or find the lesson that is in the struggle. I often say that, and many people say that successful people, they simply deal with problems better. The challenges that are before them, they'll figure out where in here lies the lesson, and how can I take this lesson and turn it into a positive in the present, or maybe in the future when this comes up again. Your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Well, that's really it. It's if you look at the platform of Convene, it's real life, real people, real experiences. You look at the last little part of that, real experiences. Life is made up of experiences. Can we take our life lessons learned? Sometimes they're positive life lessons learned, and sometimes they're negative. But can we take our lessons learned and really kind of make it what we want it to be?
Mhm.
Again, you're not always traveling this road that has roses and flowers and everything on the side of it. Sometimes, you go down a road that's not very pretty, it's bumpy. But can I learn from, hey, I went down this road and it was bumpy. can I go down this other road and change it? And people don't do that. People, again, they live in their past. They don't fall forward like Denzel Washington talks about.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that becomes so important. Can we learn from ourselves? Can we learn from others to make ourselves better? Again, you've been very successful in what you've done in trading stocks. Can I learn from you to change my outcome financially? There's so many options out there, but people just don't take it. They stay down that narrow path. They
Mhm.
stay down that narrow road, and they don't veer off left or right into a better direction.
Yeah, so you're talking about shared experiences. Um,
Mhm.
so piggybacking on that, because the audience might be saying, okay, I hear you talking all this. Give me an example of how you have had a negative experience, and in the moment, how did you decide on what to do or what to tell yourself to reframe it, to manage it, to deal with it? Give us an experience that you can share, Matt, that the audience would benefit from.
Oh gosh, that's a long, long list there, Eugene.
Right?
Yeah, again, life comes with ups and downs. I'll tell you one that really I think people can relate to, and I'll just jump right into this one. It was, I had started a contract for the Marine Corps, and it was a great contract, a $28.6 million contract. A lot of, it's a big one, and I was the key person that started it. And one day I walked in, and they said, "Okay, we're going to let you go because you're making the most money on the contract, and we can pay what, two people for what we're paying you." And so I was like, "You can't do that to me. I started the contract."
Mhm.
The guy said, "Matt, it's not personal, it's business." That statement right there is a defining moment for me, that I really take that statement, take it forward. It's not personal, it's business.
Mhm.
Um, and because it was business. If you sit back and look at it, they were going to let two people go, or they were going to let me go, and they kept the other two people, so they get twice the workforce, or
Mhm.
they let me go. So I had to make some life decisions, and at the time the economy wasn't great. It was 2011. There was not a lot of jobs out there, and so I had to go back and think, okay, what do I have? What's skill set in my tool bag do I have that others do not have? And that's flying a helicopter, right? So I went back to become an air medical helicopter. Never thought I'd really get back into the flying game, but I did. Flew as an air medical pilot, 659 patient flights, something I'm extremely proud of. Watch people's lives changing on a dime. They wake up in the morning, they think everything's okay. By the end of the day, they're in the hospital and getting flown by a helicopter, or their loved one is. And so I love that job, but I actually ended up in the right place at the right time. And now I'm the helicopter pilot for Team Penske, NASCAR, and Indy. And from that opportunity, I ended up, learning how to fly a jet. So you take something that's very negative, like losing your job, becoming unemployed, basically, and you spin it to now I'm at pretty much the top of aviation,
Mhm.
flying for Roger Penske and Team Penske, NASCAR, and Indy, a helicopter and a jet. But that didn't come easy. It came with hard work. I built, when I went and flew air medical, to go back to 659 patient flights in the time period, the 5-year time period that I did. I got that many patient flights for one reason. It's because I worked.
Mhm.
Because you're talking about a job that paid, decent money, but it's basically a $30 an hour job. Well, that's $67,000 a year, but I turned that job into 159,900 by working and making overtime.
Mhm.
Well, that built my reputation as a hard worker. So when Penske went out and started looking for a pilot, people were going, "You ought to go get this guy. You ought to go get this guy."
Mhm.
And so that's, you can turn your lemons into lemonade. There you go. And that's what I was able to do.
That is a very, very good example. But in that moment when they fired you, if you will, like, how did you feel? Like,
Oh, it's brutal.
sad? I mean, were you
Oh, it was
thinking,
horrible. I was crushed. I was crushed because literally yeah, I mean, I'll say it. I was brought to my knees,
Mhm.
and crushed, because that was my contract that I started. I was the main guy of that contract pretty much. And yeah, it took me all the way down, and it wasn't easy. I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version. It took me a long time
How
to
long
find
is
a
long?
job. 9 months. It took me 9 months.
Mhm.
And honestly, what ended up happening is I'll even expand on the story. I went and interviewed with Volvo, and the guy at Volvo said, he was asking my work experience, and he said, "Well, you're overqualified for this job." And you know this, Eugene, when you're out there and you're looking, you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I'll
Yeah.
take it. I want the job." And so
Right.
he offered me the job, and I was in HR filling out the paperwork for that job. And he said, "I got to go over to the head shed, to the headquarters. I've been called over there." And he comes back in about 30 minutes later, and he said, "Hey, I have to rescind the offer because I just got promoted, and the person who's taking the job is bringing somebody from where they work to fill this position." So I got the job and it got
Mhm.
rescinded. I mean, it was like being in the ring with Mike Tyson. I mean, it was like I was in there 1 minute, I got a couple of good blows in, I had a job. Next minute, I'm freaking on the canvas,
Right.
trying to get back up again. Well, it was that I went home and I sat down and I was sitting at my computer and I was like, God, what am I going to do? And I turned around and hit my computer. It came to life, and it was on LinkedIn, and it said Chuck Stout, air medical pilot. So I sat there and shot this guy that I was in the Marine Corps a message, and the next thing I'm getting a job with air medical. But it was a long, hard 9 months, and it
Mhm.
really took me and my family. It was brutal. It was
Yeah.
brutal, but you don't quit, right? You don't quit. You
Mhm.
just keep moving forward, and you turn those lessons learned into opportunity. And I can't. There's no other way to say it took me to my knees, but I just kept fighting, just kept
Yeah.
going. Because you can't quit. What are you going to do? I have a wife and 3 kids.
Mhm.
So you got to go. And so when I say that I went out and I took that job, that air medical job at $67,000, and I turned it into that much money. Well, I had to. I had to work. I had to make up for lost time. So you go. You just go. If you got an opportunity in front of you, put your head down and work. Make the most of it.
Yeah.
And
That's a
yeah,
I was gonna say that's a very good lesson for the audience because you started with that it's not personal, it's just business. And it's
mhm,
the same thing with life. It's not personal, it's just life.
yeah,
Life shows up and throws you a curveball and you get hit in your face because the curveball was too wide and you didn't duck fast enough. You figure out how to get back into the batter's box
yeah,
and hit that curveball where it needs to go, and then eventually out of the park. And through your experience of losing your job, you fought, and fought, got another job, and then build upon that job to where you are today. So, you know, don't.
yeah. And let me say something else, Eugene. Is we have convened communities, right? And so it's funny when I introduce myself and I talk about my flying stuff. I
Mhm.
always introduce myself and people are like, "Oh my gosh, you fly a jet, you fly a helicopter," and I always introduce myself as that's my side gig,
Mhm.
right? Because I truly believe that. Because if Penske came tomorrow and cut me off at my knees, what else am I doing to prepare myself
Mhm.
better? And that's what convene is. Convene is my focus because it's if Penske cut me off at the knees tomorrow because the economy goes south and the aviation department doesn't need that many pilots, which happened during COVID. We all got furloughed. You
Right.
got something to fall back on. So you gotta have plan A, gotta have plan B, gotta have plan C, and you have to always be thinking about that to insulate yourself and you and your family. But so when and if the bad time comes or the downfall comes or something bad, you're like, okay, let's just keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the things that you've learned through this experience, and we'll all learn through a number of experiences. You've learned that no matter what, you will overcome.
Absolutely.
Through the hard times, you will figure it out. If it takes you 9 weeks, or if it, in this case, if it took you 9 months, you've learned that if you keep pressing forward, you will get the job done and you will keep advancing through life. So folks that are out there, you know, if you lose your job or things are rough, or you gotta know and you gotta believe, because we're talking about negative belief systems. You have to believe in you, that
Yeah.
you will put together a plan of action, you will figure it out, and through necessity and through your own strength as well, you will find a way forward. And that's what we're talking about here in this show. So,
Eugene, you just said the most important part, the most important sentence of this podcast is you have to believe in yourself.
mhm.
That's really what it is you have to sit there and look in the mirror and go, okay, oh man, I got punched, I got a black eye, I got bloody nose, but I believe in myself. That's the key. If you believe in yourself, you can overcome anything.
Yeah, belief
That's
is a
where people, as a counselor, that's where people falter, is they don't believe in themselves.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of that, and a lot of times people, they weren't instilled with an appropriate belief system. It's either they didn't search for the knowledge, as I like to say, they didn't read the books, they didn't get the memo, they weren't in the right job, they didn't develop in a way that they believe in themselves and believe that anything is possible. But guys, belief is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. That and how you think and what you believe, because how you think will govern what you believe. So those kind of that happy marriage, very, very powerful things that you guys need to master. So we won't, we're going to wrap this up. Matt, you want to close us out? Anything
Yeah.
you want to leave the audience?
No, you're going to fall, get back up. You're going to fall again, get back up, and just always keep pressing forward. And I'll just reiterate what you said. When you fall and get back up, just believe that you can keep going. You know, you always hear, Eugene, I read a lot of books on, the same as you, but I'm always I'm fascinated with like the Navy SEALs, and having been a military guy. And what makes those guys get to the end of Hell Week? And it's just belief. They believe,
Mhm.
and they're getting beat up, and it's the ones that crawl out and ring the bell that just did not know that if they just one more minute, go minute by minute, day by day. And if you do that, you'll overcome. And also, the last thing I'll say is surround yourself with people that believe in themselves.
Mhm.
So if you surround yourself with people who have the same kind of belief system that you want to be, then you're going to be in good shape, because they're going to help you and pull you along.
Very good. Thank you so much. That's going to be our show for today, but stay tuned for some special offers at the end of this video. And remember that we have a live show each Wednesday at 7:30. You just need to be a member of the Convene podcast group, which I'll leave a link so that you can get access to the Zoom link so you can participate in the show. That's our show again. Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you next time.